So, as you all know, this section of the program, we are usually going for a talk and a discussion. The purpose of that is to provide support to what we are doing, which the Blessed One has recommended whoever who is walking on his path. So we call it supportive factors. So there are a few supportive factors that he has given. The supportive factors are being or having a moral life and listening to our sermon and discussion of your practice or the doubts or any question that you may have relating to Buddha's teaching. And the other two rather, are what we did, that is trying to build our concentration and trying to build our wisdom, right? So this time we are taking for listening supportive factor few minutes, and then we will be going for a discussion supportive factor. So for the listening supportive factor, for quite some time we have been discussing one of the most important discourse of the Buddha, which we call Four Foundations of Mindfulness. In Four Foundations of Mindfulness, Buddha is explaining four things, four bases on which you can be mindful, right? Mindful means being aware. So you can be aware of your body. So that is what we did when we were walking and when we were sitting. We tried to, while walking, we tried to focus on our lower part of the body. While sitting, we were trying to focus on the upper part of the body, right? And then he says, you can be mindful not only of the body, you can be mindful of the feelings as well. You will have painful feelings, you will have pleasant feelings, you may have feelings neither painful nor pleasant. Just be aware of all that. And also he says, not only the feelings, you may have a lot of thoughts, a lot of suggestions, a lot of turmoil going in your mind. You can be mindful of that as well, right? And then once you do all that, then you will come to the nature, right? The phenomena. You can be mindful of the phenomena as well. So we have discussed two types of phenomena, that the Blessed One has given in the discourse. One is being mindful on the hindrances, which we call sense desire, resistance or aversion, and sloth and torpor. And the other one is skeptical doubt. And there is one more, the fourth one, which we call Uddhacca Pucca, which is agitation and worry about the past, right? That we have discussed. And also in the last week, we discussed a very important section of our existence, which is the clinging aggregates. Which we call clinging aggregates. We discuss 5 types of clinging aggregates, which we have. If I just label them once again or signpost them, they are the form, feelings, perceptions, mental volitions, and the consciousness, right? These are the 5 aggregates, 5 things which we cling to. And of those 5, only one which corresponds to our body, and all other 4 are about our mind, right? So we have discussed that in detail. In the last session, we discussed about consciousness, which is the most cunning and the culprit of the mental process. The consciousness is taking us for a ride without our knowledge, and we are just hooked onto it. And we discuss what the Blessed One has recommended when it comes to these clinging aggregates and even consciousness. So today, we are touching another one that the Blessed One has explained in his teaching, explained in the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And this one is the last mundane aspect of the phenomena, right? When we take the phenomena or Dhamma, there are 3 mundane aspects. One is the hindrances, and the other is clinging aggregates, and the third one is this one, which we are going to discuss. 6-fold sense media or sense bases or sensual sense institutions we can form, right? And what the Blessed One says there is, furthermore, the monk dwells in phenomena as phenomena with reference to the 6-fold internal and external sense media, right? So what are these sense media? We all know, right? It's common sense for everybody. Even the kids are aware, right? It's such a simple thing, but he's taking last. We will see why. The 6 things, 6 sense bases are eye, ear, nose, tongue, and the body. These are the 6 sense bases that any human being, any animal, any living being will have, right? And all these 6 sense bases are within us, with us. They are called, therefore, internal sense bases. And there are objects that these internal sense bases will be able to sense. And those objects are called external objects linked to the sense bases. So that is, those external sense bases are for the eye. I can't hear, I can't smell, I can only see. So therefore, eye is having the external sense base for eye is the form, right? Anything that you can see, anything that has a color, right? So the Blessed One says it's not just form, rupa, right? And then for the ear, it is not just sound form, right? It is a vibration that comes into ear. So that he calls it, the external object is sound form. And for the nose, it's odor form, or the smell, right? And for the tongue, taste form, the form or that sap that agitate, that tickles your taste buds is the taste form. And then the body, tactile form, tactile sensation. And then the mind, mental objects, right? They're not in specific form. They're the mental objects that appear in your mind. So those are the 6 internal sense bases and the attached external sense bases, right? So Blessed One is saying, this is a phenomena. Why it's a phenomena? It's the nature of any living being, right? So you will have to be mindful of that. And I have not taken that aspect as yet, what the Blessed One is saying, how to be mindful of those things. So I would like to discuss today the significance of taking this at this stage. This is such a simple thing, right? Blessed One would have straight away explained this at the very beginning. There is no rocket science in this. Everyone is having these 6 sense bases, and everyone is seeing, and everyone is hearing, tasting, and all that. So he would have taken this at the very beginning, but he did not. We will see why, right? So the reason why he has not taken this is, there is a discourse called the all discourse, right? In Pali, we call it sub, right? In that discourse, the Blessed One is saying like this, at Savatthi, because I will teach you the all. And he says, listen to that. And what bhikkhus is the all? The eye and forms, the ear and sounds, the nose and odors, the tongue and taste, the body and tactile objects, the mind and mental phenomena. This is called the all. If you have something, all this is that is appearing in the universe for you can only be contacted with this sixth thing. So therefore, for anybody, all is whatever that can be sensed from your six objects, right? And also he further says, if anyone bhikkhus should speak thus, having rejected this all, I shall make known another all that would be a mere empty boast in his part. If he were questioned, he would not be able to reply, and further, he would meet with vexation. For what reason? Because that would not be within his domain. Right? So if someone says all, it must be with the sense desire, or rather sensual objects, right? So this is why the Blessed One said to Rohitasa, if you want to find the universe, take your body. That is all. Right now, say for example, there will have a musical show going on in the city. Do we have a musical show? If we take individually here, do we have a musical show? We don't have a musical show because instead you have my show. Because not that there is no musical show in the city. Not that we can't see or hear. Not that there is no sound or things happening there. Not that ear or our eyes are blind and deaf. But these two are not meeting together. It is there, but it is not for us because the two are not meeting. So if you say something is there, then it must have had a contact with your sense organs, sense faculties. So this is why the Blessed One says, all what I mean is this internal sense bases and external sense objects, right? So for that reason, what happens if you stop all these things at the very beginning? You're flying very high, in very high altitude, at very high speed. What we do is that we keep on satisfying our eyes. We keep on satisfying our ears. We keep on satisfying our taste bud. We keep on satisfying our body. We keep on thinking about so many things and in the mind. And so we are hooked so much into our sense bases. And if the Blessed One says, oh, it is simple, you stop all that, what happens? The flight that is going on so high at that high speed, when you switch off the engine, it will just glide down onto the floor, to the earth, and go into pieces. The same thing will happen to us as well. At the very beginning, Blessed One says, okay, stop your seeing, stop your hearing, stop your this, or try to observe that, or this is what is happening, you go mad. Right? So what he therefore gradually does is quietly bringing the altitude down, bring the flight down, and then slow down, and then find a path, find a proper runway to stop, and then gradually brings it down, and without even feeling the passengers inside, it quietly lands. That is what he is doing, knowing that we are so much involved with this sense faculty. So this is the reason why, although it's such a simple thing, even a kid can understand. He does not stop there. He straight away don't ask you to stop. So you need some preparation for it. And that is the preparation that we have done by observing our body. That's the preparation that we have done by sitting and observing our feelings. That is a preparation that we are doing while practicing, right? You know, when you are trying to observe your breath, how hard it is to observe one breath. How hard to observe what is happening in the lower part of the breath. You know how painful it is. You know what what sort of thoughts are going in your head. So that's the preparation. Once this preparation is successful to some extent, then you are prepared to slowly bring the flight down. Okay. So therefore, he does not straight away ask us to stop all, right? And if you do that, Buddha did that. Although he is teaching us not to do that, he did that. That is how he found. And you know, during the 6 years of his self-mortification, he stopped everything. What happened finally? He did not have anything to eat. When he was touching his tummy, he could only touch the backbone, because all these are gone and all those have disappeared. And he had just the skin and the bone. And that is what happens if you stop everything all of a sudden without any preparation. So he has gone through that, and therefore he clearly knows what happens. And then he says, don't do that. There we require some preparation. Don't self, what he said that in his first sermon was, don't go for self-indulgence, sensual indulgence, and don't go for self-mortification as well. Right? In Pali we call it, don't go for Kamasukhalikanu Yoga, and also Attakilamatanu Yoga. Attakilamatanu Yoga means self-mortification. So he's not teaching us self-mortification, but he's preparing us to land it in a systematic manner. So this is the reason why he did not do it straight away. And the other thing is, in Pali, we call this sixth sense. In Pali, we call it Phalayatana, sixth sense institutions. Ayatana. Ayatana means institutions, faculties, right? And why they call faculties is because, you know, in the university there are different faculties. There is engineering faculty, there is medical faculty, there is accounting faculty, there is IT faculty, there is this faculty, that faculty. What do? Everyone thinks that they are the boss. Everyone thinks that they can teach others, right? It's the same story with our faculties as well. I think that he's the boss. He thinks that he's the boss. And Nose thinks that he's the boss. Right? So there is a competition between these guys. Right? And therefore, they have their own objects. So they are going to sub-optimize what they want to achieve. Right? But by doing that, what happens is, it is supporting the continuation of birth and death. By fighting with each other, only thing that you confirm is that you have so much of craving, that you have so much of craving for your eye, so much of craving for your ear, so much of craving for the other sense faculty. And because of the same reason, you have aversion towards the other five. The eye is having an aversion towards the other five. Ear is having the aversion towards the other five. So therefore, you simply support by sub-optimizing, you simply support the continuation of birth and death, right? So therefore, we call it ayatana, because they have an objective achieved. That objective is suffering. Birth and death means suffering. And there is a discourse of Buddha, which is known as Arising of Suffering Discourse. And in that discourse, the Blessed One is saying Because the arising, continuation, production, and manifestation of the eye is the arising of suffering, continuation of disease, manifestation of aging and death, the arising of the ear and nose, tongue, body, mind, and he's giving all that. So if something arises, it is not just that faculty. With that, you get a package. You're going to take the package. What's the package coming? It comes with suffering of the eye. What is the suffering of the eye? You'll have to look at that, look at this, look at everything. Suppose for boys, they're a beautiful girl and they don't know which one to look at. It's same thing for women. If there are smart guys, they go mad. Right? And when you go to eat something, if you go for a buffet lunch or dinner, oh, so many things, right? Your mouth is watering and eyes dancing, and before you go to the table, before you take the plate, you drink about 1 gallon of saliva because mouth is watering so much. This is happening, right? And it happens for us as well. When we accept dana, before they finish offering dana, the saliva is coming into the mouth. That's a natural phenomenon, right? So it's a package that comes, that is that burning is taking place. So it has suffering and the continuation of disease. If you have eyes, there are so many eye diseases. This is why at the 40, when you reach 40, then you have to go and see the doctor whether everything is okay. And after that, every 2 years we will go and see. But especially nowadays, it starts from the age 2, 3, 4. Because they are looking at the screens all the time. Their eyes are not getting exercise to see far. So most of them are short-sighted. And I remember my kids, one eye is short-sighted and the other is long-sighted. And I also have the same thing, but I got it a bit late. Right? So it's not only for me, not only for my kids. Everyone is having, when you have an eye, it comes with that related package of the disease. And similarly, at the end, when you reach 80, 85, after all this medication, it will die. Somebody will have to help you to walk, or you will have a blind stick and walk around. So it's for all the faculties are like that, right? It comes with that package. So therefore, having this institution, it is what it simply gives us is the life and death, continuation of life and death cycle in this manner with the package. So I just want to show a few more important or significant things in these sense faculties. When I was preparing for this talk, and in Samyutta Nikaya, there is a separate section called Salayatana Samyutta, which means separate section for 6 sense bases. And there are beautiful short discourses. So I have picked up few discourses for the benefit of everyone, so that we can understand the significance of these 6 sense bases, which we have neglected in our existence. So there is one called Before My Enlightenment discourse. In that, the Blessed One is saying, when he was living in Savatthi, because before my enlightenment, while I was still a bodhisattva, means he has not achieved, he has not enlightened, not yet fully enlightened, it occurred to me, what is the gratification? What is the danger? What is the escape in the case of I? And what is the gratification? What is the danger? What is the escape in the case of ear, nose, tongue, body, and etc.? right? He's questioning himself even before enlightenment. What is the gratification? What is the satisfaction so much you have? What is the pleasure in the eye? And he's thinking about what is the danger in the eye? Is there a danger in the eye? And then he's thinking, is there any escape from the eye? Should we always send this seeing vibration, seeing rays at things, doing that continuously is consuming so much of energy, right? So then he says, then because it occurred to me, the pleasure and joy that arise in dependence on the eye, this is the gratification in the eye. So this is something that is a bit radical. When in his teaching, what we hear is that he's always talking about suffering, 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 suffering. But here he is very clearly saying there is some gratification, some aswad in the eye. What is that gratification? There is a joy that arises. There is a pleasure that arises. Dependence on the eye. Because of the eye, there is some pleasure. It is so much pleasing for us to see, wife to see the husband, husband to see the wife, and the parents to see the kids, kids to see the parents. That we let, of course, ask kids whether, whether they are so much pleased in seeing parents. When they are small, of course, yes. But after a certain age, can you go away? And can you leave us alone? Right? So, so there are things that pleases us, right? So that joy and pleasure is the gratification of the eye, and at the same time, he says that the eye is impermanent, and you will keep on looking at things, so which is suffering, and subject to change. I will not stay in its prime health condition every day. It changes. So then he says, this is the danger in the eye. You will have to maintain. So maintaining is the danger. And the removal and abandonment of desire and lust for the eye is the escape. So if you can remove and abandon the lust and the desire of the eye, then you can escape from the eye. So also there is another similar discourse given by the Buddha, which he calls the delight discourse. In the delight discourse, he's talking something similar. He says, because the arising, continuation, production, and manifestation of the eye is arising of the suffering. And the continuation of the disease, manifestation of aging, and this is exactly what we discussed even a little bit earlier. Sorry, it's arising of suffering. Sorry, in the delight, he says, because one who seeks delight in the eye seeks delight in suffering. When we are so much happy about eye, what we are happy about is the suffering that the eye is bringing. We are happy about the change happening. We are happy about maintaining the eye. So that is the delight that we enjoy when we delight in our eye. One who seeks the delight in suffering, I say, is not freed from suffering. So if you are delight in eye, and if you are therefore delight in suffering, therefore you are not free from suffering. And he says, one who seeks delight in the ear and so on, right? So because of this discussion, we don't see our faculties in that manner. We see our faculties now that this should be maintained, and this is what we are told as well. If you go to a dentist, if you go to eye surgeon, to optometrist, or if you go to ENT specialist, They will say, okay, don't worry, it can be brought to the same original position that you had when you were 18. That will never happen. They keep, if they can do it, they can do it once and for all, finish. No, they keep asking you to come. And towards the end, what happens is, no, you will have to change the glass. You'll have to remove your tooth. That is what they are saying. So, which means the change is happening. We can never stop it. And we delight in suffering. And therefore, when we delight in suffering, we simply help arising of suffering and continuation of suffering, production of suffering and manifestation of suffering. So when I say this, when Buddha says this, it is very important for us to get the right message. You may feel, is he saying that not having an eye, not having an ear, not having a nose, not having a tongue, not having a body, not having a mind is better? One can ask, because he's condemning the six faculties so much, six sense faculties so much. So is he suggesting get rid of all this? No, he says, if you want to walk on the path, all these six faculties must be intact. If the six faculties are not intact, you cannot ordain. That's a rule by the Buddha. One of my friends who wanted to ordain, he had a one short finger, or rather a toe. He has been rejected because the faculties are not balanced. So you must have all six sense faculties intact if you want to ordain. What is the reason for it? You should get all the challenges coming from these faculties and go through them. Then only you will be able to walk on the path. So therefore, there is a discourse that we all know, which we call Indriya Bhavana Sutta, or the development of faculties. In that sutta, a student of Parasarya, another Brahmana, who was teaching during Buddha's time, not the teacher, one of his students called Uttara, visited Lord Buddha. When he visited Lord Buddha, they exchanged greetings, and then Lord Buddha asked him casually, does Brahman Parasarya teach development of faculties to his students? So Uttara was delighted. Very simple question. I am able to answer. Then Uttara said, yes, he does. My teacher does. My teacher is teaching. Then the Lord Buddha is asking, how does he teach? Then Uttara is saying, there is the case where one does not see forms with the eye or hears sounds with the ear, and etc. He goes on for the six sense faculties. Then he will be relieved from all the sufferings, all the evil of the faculties. So this is the development of faculties that is taught by Parasarya. Lord Buddha turned back and asked Uttara, that being the case, Uttara, a blind person will have developed faculties. A deaf person will have developed faculties, etc. He kept on going. If you don't see forms with the eye and hear sound, then blind people should be already arahant. And deaf people must have been enlightened already. Then when he said that, Uttara did not have place to stand. And he was very silent and abased, shoulders slumped, his head down, brooding, and lost for words. So shaken. And then Lord Buddha, after that, tells Venerable Ananda, that is Parasarya's teaching. And I have my teaching. And my teaching is something else. And then Venerable Ananda invites him, Venerable Sir, please teach the discipline that you are teaching to develop the faculties. Then the Blessed One says, explains the development of faculties. He is explaining this is how it has to be done. And he's taking 3 stages of the enlightenment. He's not talking about who are in the sensual world, right? He's talking about 3 other stages. One is those who are in training, right? Which means not attained anything. And then he's talking about on the way to the full enlightenment, which means those who have achieved the first stage, second stage, third stage. And then he's talking about the noble ones who have fully enlightened. So in these 3 categories, they look at the faculties in 3 different ways. So I'm not going to go into detail of that. So what I want to simply tell here is that Buddha is not asking you to see, asking you not to see. Buddha is not asking you not to hear. Buddha is not asking you not to taste. He himself says there is some gratification. But be aware. There is gratification, and at the same time there is danger. And at the same time, there is a way out as well. So for you to realize that, you must have the faculty. And you must have the challenges from the faculty. And so that's the difference between the teaching of others and the teaching of the Buddha. Without the opposition, there is no match. If you go to the pitch and you keep the bat and waiting for the bowler, and if there is no bowler, there is no match. Right? So it's like that. All our faculties are bowling. Blessed One is asking, teaching us how to hit sixes for each and every one. Right? Okay. So when you see the significance of this, and there is another discourse where the Blessed One is teaching how to seek gratification, how to, we call it Arya Paryesana or Aswada Paryesana, and how when we have this gratification, when we are so much hooked, how we practice it. And he says, because I set out seeking the gratification in the eye, whatever gratification there is in the eye that I discovered, I have clearly seen with wisdom just how far gratification in the eye extends. Because I set out seeking in the danger in the eye, whatever danger there is in the eye that I discovered, I have clearly seen with wisdom just how far the danger in the eye extends. Because I set out seeking in the escape from the eye, whatever escape from the eye that I discovered. So here, what he is simply saying is, when you walk on the path, you see all these 3. That is Arya Paryesana or Aswada Paryesana. What are the 3? You must see that there is a gratification as well. You must see that there is a pleasure in the eye. And at the same time, you must be aware that there is a danger. Right? And at the same time, you must be aware that there is an escape as well. Right? And that is what the Blessed One is going to teach in 4 foundations of mindfulness, which you have not taken. How you handle life, how you handle your ear, how you handle your nose and other 3 sense faculties. So there is a way, there is a research, there is a noble quest when it comes to the 6 external faculties that you can do. And there is another beautiful side to it. He says, if there were no, and if there were no, he says, because if there were no gratification in the eye, beings would not become enamored with it. But because there is gratification in the eye, beings become, I don't know, enamored with it. What does it mean, enamored? Yeah, maybe engrossed with it. Since there is a gratification, beings would get attached to it because there is gratification in the eye. If there is no gratification, there is no issue. Right? So he says if there were no gratification, there is no issue. There is a gratification and there is an issue. And also he says another one, if there were no danger in the eye, beings would not experience revulsion towards it. If there is no danger, there is no problem once again, he says. And but because there is a danger in the eye, beings experience revulsion towards it. Right. There is a gratification on one hand, and if it is not there, there is no problem. There is a danger. If it is not there, once again, there is no problem. And then he says, because of these two, if there were no escape from the eye, beings would not escape from it. And at the same time, because of these two, there is an escape as well. Right? So you have a gratification, you have danger, you have a way to escape as well. Right? So then he says in full understanding of clinging discourse, and this is where this is the most important discourse, and it clearly explains why he is preaching about six sense faculties after clinging aggregates. What we just finished before this was clinging aggregates. He is teaching us to master clinging aggregates. After mastering clinging aggregates, only he is taking the six sense bases. The reason is the clinging aggregates are in operation through these faculties. If these faculties are not there, there is no form. If these faculties are not there, you can't feel anything. If these faculties are not there, there is no perception. If these faculties are not there, there is nothing to have mental volition. If these faculties are not there, there is nothing for you to think about. All what you think about is what the other five is doing. That is what the mind is taking and then daydreaming and having colors in the sky. Right? So therefore, it's like the wheels in the car. You may have the best car on the earth, but if there are no wheels, there is no use of it. Like that, the six sense bases are carrying these clinging aggregates. So what the Blessed One says is full understanding of clinging aggregate discourse. He says is in that at Savatthi once again, because without directly knowing and fully understanding the all, without developing dispassion towards it and abandoning it, one is incapable of destroying suffering. And what bhikkhus is that all without directly knowing and fully understanding which, without developing dispassion towards it, which, and abandoning which, one is incapable of destroying suffering. Without directly knowing and fully understanding the I, without developing dispassion towards it and abandoning it, one is incapable of destroying suffering. Without directly knowing, fully understanding forms and eye consciousness, eye contact, and whatever feelings arises, so he keeps on going about the what do you call dependent origination, right? In dependent origination, only we have consciousness, and then feelings and contact, feelings and other things start, right? So therefore, your fully understanding of these clinging aggregates through the sense faculties is important to abandon them, to escape from the danger, to escape from the suffering, right? And how you do that is also mentioned in the same Sangyutta. He says, you will have to abandon the ignorance. And how you abandon the ignorance is, then a certain bhikkhu approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him, and sat down one side and said to him, and this is in the discourse called Abandoning Ignorance. And it says, Venerable Sir, how should one know, how should one see, for ignorance to be abandoned and true knowledge to arise? Right, very simple question. We are talking about ignorance day and night. And straight away asking the question, how do you do that? How do you abandon it? Then the Blessed One says, Bhikkhu, when one knows and sees I as impermanent, ignorance is abandoned. True knowledge arises. When one knows and sees forms are impermanent, when one knows and sees impermanent, whatever feeling arises with the mind contact as condition, with pleasant, painful, neither painful, no pleasant, ignorance abundant. So in other words, what he says is, ignorance is abundant when you see impermanence in all the stages in dependent origination, right? It is a cause and effect relationship, which means in itself is the impermanence. If the cause and effect relationship is not there, then it can be permanent. Because of cause and effect relationship, it keeps changing. Right? So when you see the cause and effect relationship, you see it is depending always on something. And therefore the impermanence is continuing. So by seeing the continuing or dependent origination, cause and effect relationship, only thing you understand is the impermanence. Right? So when you understand the impermanence of each of these stages, what you simply erase, what you simply depreciate is your ignorance. You were ignorant that there is dependent origination. But when you see the dependent origination, maybe there is very little. While practicing, we see dependent origination. While walking, our attention goes from walking to something else. Right? So you can see, you are seeing something, your attention is not in walking. So I has started, I has taken birth, and it is seeing the visual object. Now I is at work rather than the walking, right? So it's the dependent origination, and it shows the impermanence of your attention to the leg. And then if your attention comes from visual objects to the leg, you see the impermanence of dependent origination of that visual object. You see that on the very first day of your practice. But our mind never allows you to accept it. This impermanence, suffering, non-self are not things that thousands and thousands miles away. It's not in another realm or in another planet. It is there with you all the time. You see that in the very first sitting, very first walking, but our mind is not ready to accept. So this is why the continuing practice is important. You gradually start talking that vulgar side of the mind. Then the listener or the teacher will be able to correct that this is what the mind is doing, and what you simply see is the basic teaching of the Buddha, which is impermanent. So what I simply want to say is here, abandoning means seeing the dependent origination. Abandoning means seeing that it is impermanent. Right? Okay. And then he also says, abandoning fetters. Abandoning fetters, once again, seeing the impermanence of that. So it is in the next sutta. It says, Venerable Sir, how should one know? How should one see for the fetters to be abundant. Buddha is giving the same reply. See the impermanence of the dependent origination, or see the dependent origination, and that teaches you the impermanence. Right? And then he's asking, there is another question. Abandoning of tens. Same thing. For abandoning of tens, he says, Venerable Sir, how should one know? How should one see? For the tens to be abandoned. Then he says, underlying, yes. Yeah, he's telling once again the same thing. See the dependent origination, which will show you the impermanence. And then the next important question is asking, how you now, abandoning is fine, how you completely uproot them. How you take it from the main root and throw it away. And in uprooting fetters discourse, Monkey is asking, Venerable Sir, how should one know, how should one see for the fetters to be uprooted? Then he's saying, Bhikkhu, when one knows and sees the I is non-self, the fetters are uprooted. Academically, abandoning means seeing the impermanence. Academically, uprooting means accepting that it is in non-self. If you don't identify yourself with what is happening, you are not there. It is not rooted in you. But what happens when we practice? Each and every damn thing, excuse me for my language, we identify ourselves in that. Why is my leg is going this way? Why is my head is bending? Why do you want to change my posture? Why do I? What to do next? Always I am in front. So we never uproot it. Right? But asking that question provides an opportunity to the listener, to the noble friend. Just observe. Now you have seen the issue. Just observe. So when you hear that, you may blast the teacher, you may blast the parents of the teacher and all that, but still you keep on observing. So what happens is it comes to a point gradually, you try to be away from being involved with it and just observe the phenomena. So naturally, little by little, you move away from what is happening. Right? So when you are sitting, your leg is about to go into pieces. Just one more second, if you don't change the posture, it will go into all, it will blast into all electrons, neutrons, protons, everything. You are feeling it now. It's so much difficult. But each and every thought moment you can bear it up. You are uprooting the tens. You are uprooting fetters relating to it. And uprooting that you have got to do now is the thing that you have cultivated, built, and grown up for aeons together. This is not something that happened yesterday or day before yesterday. We have developed this long period. But uprooting is still possible, right? So if you don't identify yourself with something, what you simply do is you let the thing be as it is. You don't get involved with it. So what Bhante Dhammajiva says is, you don't sign on father's place in the birth certificate. Right? So when a kid is born, somebody will have to sign as the father of that child. right? So when things happen to us, we run and sign in that box. I am the father of this incident, and we accept it. So he says, "Anunge daruwanta taatta kiyanne." Right? That is what we are doing in our practice when something is happening. That is dependent origination. We don't accept it as dependent origination. We say it is happening to me, and we identify ourselves with it. So, so in this manner, you may have realized, you may have seen the significance of these sense faculties. Although it is so simple thing that all of us know from day one we were born, he is not taking it because that is the thing that is carrying the entire flow of defilements. So it's very carefully touching that and explaining that only once you have mastered the things before that, right? So now we will see in the next few sessions how significant these faculties are, and see what the Buddha is saying about these faculties towards the end. So with that, I wish you all, you will have the faith and the energy to uproot both fetters and tails, and understanding the significance of the 6 internal and external sense faculties. Teruvan Saranai. All right, so we have taken a few minutes more than the scheduled time. So we can use the next few minutes to ask any questions on the topic we discussed, or to produce any questions that you may have. It's not necessary to be in English today, because all our non-Sinhala speaking audience have disappeared today. So we can ask questions in Sinhala if you have, or I'm more than happy to answer in English as well.
Bhante, I have something to clear from the discussion, and that these 6 sense faculties, like by like surface, well, like by surface is not deep topic, like it, as you mentioned, but it's like it's really difficult to trace, like these sense faculties actually the cause of this like a thought process, like when for example, or else I heard a sound, like, but I thought I was it very pain, like I was doing my walking meditation, and I didn't think it's actually me to start a thinking process, like when it goes like with 6th level, when I stop it and then I go back, and then I realize that that's actually the sound is caused that thought process. But my question is observing this, like what is called anitya or something, like it just not like you mentioned that we have to go through, like not shutting it down, and you have to go through it to, like, it's anything, any sense faculty, like it's very easy with the pain and like with the body. That's maybe why we doing this with the body, but when it comes to like visuals or sound, it's really difficult. It's very tricky, and even you don't recognize in your first very gentle, subtle thought. So yeah, but the process, only thing is like this changing process, and then focus on that, and then remove me or remove signing the father. Like, but it's when you feel it, when you feel it after 6th version, it's like you already attach that thought process to yourself, and you are in a big dialogue, and that dialogue is caused by clinging aggregates. So what is clinging aggregates? Is a Panchanivarna, or what sort of? Yeah, that's the. Yeah, I need to know what's the process it's making this journey. And also I have a problem, like when I feel it, it's something close to me. It's like either one of the mainstream thoughts, either based on hate or either based on desire, like a kama sukhalika. And that's like, it's like a pendulum. Like a pendulum has a very high energy. That's where you feel it. And my question is like, how to identify this earlier. You had to observe, I know, but if there's any help there, that would be good. Yeah, and
okay, so let me understand the question first. What you are asking is, number one, how to see this impermanent and non-self in the process so that it will be abundant and uprooted. That is the sense I got. That's one question. And by doing that, how we don't get involved and get hooked into a mental process from what you see or what you hear. Do I understand it correct? Yeah. Yes. Okay. So if I answer the first question, how to abandon and how to uproot, it's we feel from the way that the Blessed One is explaining here, and when you read it, he says, when one sees and when one understands, when one knows, so that gives the impression that we have got to do something intentionally. It is not that, right? Not that we are doing anything intentionally. He has given us the key to see the impermanence. He has given us the key not to get involved in it. The key is just observation. Key is just mindfulness. Key is just the awareness. When we hear a sound, if we can be aware that my ear is active, and if you keep your attention to the ear, that's it. You are hearing something, and you know that you are hearing that. The slight delay is called ignorance. Then it takes over. And if you can, therefore, the Blessed One says, or rather, the Blessed One says, when you hear something, if you can't straight away control it at the very beginning, because the mental process is happening so fast, mental volition is so fast, you bring bit of a gross volition, which is verbal volition. When you hear, you label it as hearing. And when you see something, you label it as seeing. By keeping your attention to the eye, right? Not just for the sake of doing it. You take your mind to the eye and label as seeing. Take the attention to the eardrum, and then label it as hearing. Right? Similarly, if it goes to the mind, and if the mind is going at million miles an hour, right? You take whatever feeling that you have in your head, some feeling when the thoughts are going on, take your attention there, and then label it as thinking. Right? That mere awareness. So when you bring that awareness, it does not provide an opportunity for the mental volition to get activated, right? Because we are putting a mental volition and converting into a verbal volition to accept what is happening now. It is a volition, but we accept now. We don't bring a future about it. We don't project a future based on that, or bring a past about it, right? So, so that is how you tackle that. And when that happens, you don't identify yourself with it. It is that relationship, that dependent origination has given you an opportunity. You can have that opportunity to label it as sound, or visual. Then if you do that, your attention is outside, not with you. But if you label it as seeing, your attention is with you. And if you can keep your attention to the eye directly and see how you feel in the eye, what vibration going in the eye, what vibration going in the ear, then your attention is with you, right? That eliminates identification of yourself with what is happening outside. That's uprooting.
What you're saying is basically to cut off at the very beginning by becoming aware into that thing happen, like if it is a visual or if it is a hearing. My question is, when you're trying to do it with meditation, that gives away your primary object. Like if you are trying to focusing on what mostly happen is when I see it, I don't say visual. I kept it to my inner mind and I try to focus on my walking, because I have a bit of like a reluctance to go away from my main object. And that's where the question actually, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. When we are practicing, we always try to be with our main object, right? So what we are bringing is, we are not. I mean, it's not anyone's fault. It is not individual's fault. That is what we have been practicing throughout our existence. What is that? Concentration. In concentration, we try to be with our object all the time. If we are with the object, our eye faculty is dead, our ear faculties, all other faculties are dead, or at least hidden. What Buddha did was, he says, don't hide anything, keep the mindfulness to the see what happens. Right? So you're coming out of it now. So when you're coming out of it, now you see the struggle. Right? You can't live a life by holding on to one object, because even that is changing. Right? So you are seeing the impermanence. When you see the impermanence of holding on to the object, then you don't accept it. You are trying to identify yourself with the object. Instead, you accept that you are hearing or the seeing. You have said bye to the object. And then something else happened later, and your hearing goes, you say bye to the hearing. You don't build a permanent house in the object that you get, right? That's a way of living. when we live, when we have a family, when we do our business, when we work, we can't keep our legs crossed and hands, right hand on the left, and keep spinal upright and close eyes. Our faculties are always at work, and if we can maintain our attention to some extent, at least, when our faculties are moving, we are with Buddha, right? We accept the fact that these are originating depending on something. That is impermanence, right? And when you allow that to happen, you don't identify with anything. So gradually, even the person disappears quietly, and you become just like a zombie. What's happening in the meeting? What did you say? Because you have been with yourself and not listening to the rubbish that these people are talking. But when they say what they said, you immediately get it because they are not gone as well. Right? So it's a very good point. That is what our mind is suggesting. Hang on to the main object. Otherwise, you are not practicing well. Buddha says it cannot be done. So, and he says it cannot be done after asking us to keep the attention to the body, keep the attention to the feeling, keep that. He's asking us to see the breath and showing that it is not possible. He's bringing that gradually. The breath that you see gradually fades away, it becomes shorter and subtler and subtlest, and finally you don't feel the breath, and then you go to feeling, and then the mind, everything changes. And once everything changes, you start seeing how your faculties work. When you practice, after a certain point, you become a bit worried about yourself. When you are mindful, why I became mindful? Because you start seeing how our eye is working, where our eye is going, what our eye is looking for, what our ear is looking for. Then you feel ashamed of yourself. That is when you have gone very, very, very deep into our existence. Now we see how consciousness is creating name and form, how name and form is creating the six sense bases. Therefore, no matter where it goes, just keep the mindfulness to the fore. That's the simple formula. If we are clever enough in doing that, no other teaching is necessary. No, all these are just intellectual entertainment. Just keep the mindfulness to the fore. Simple. Even the five-year-old can do it. No problem. Any other comments, questions, criticisms, complaints? Yeah. If there are no such things, I'm very happy. And you are even happier. And we can conclude the session. To conclude the session, we can chant our usual stanzas in Pali today. So these things are happening because of the dedication of time and energy by a lot of people. Especially this session is solely handled by our veteran Chatura. Thank you very much, Chatura, and may the merits be with him and a lot of other people who help him as well, and a lot of other beings that support us, rejoice in what we do. So may all these positive energies be with all these living beings, including our most venerable teacher, and then the Nayakatero of the temple, and the other monks in the temple, and those who look after them. So to pass the positive energies, we will chant the traditional stanzas.